Let me show you how we do stuff around here.
LWO1 WeatherNet, liftoff conditions looking pretty good.
TS is ready for launch.
Ignition. Liftoff.
Falcon 9 has cleared the tower.
Ten, 9, 8,
Side booster ignition.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Alright, the intros are finally over. We are 14 minutes away from launch. So this is the Cygnus spacecraft built by Northrop Grumman. Usually they launch on the Antares rocket, but that rocket was recently discontinued, retired from service. So they're launching on a Falcon 9 today to the International Space Station. The booster today is B-1077, which has launched 9 other missions. This will be its 10th flight. This booster has flown, I just said 9 other missions, starting with Crew 5, GPS 3, Inmarsat 6 F2, Starlink Group 510, CRS 28, Galaxy 37, Starlink Group 6-13, Starlink Group 6-25, and Starlink Group 6-33. Today will be its 10th flight with CRS NG-20. We're launching from pad 40 today. This is SpaceX's pad. They've had it for a while, but they just recently built a crew tower here, so they can now, well, they need to finish building this crew tower. But then they're ready to launch crew sometime later this year. In 13 minutes they will launch. The first stage will burn for about 2.5 minutes, and then we will have main engine cutoff followed by separation, and the second stage Merlin vacuum engine will ignite, and also during that time the first stage will perform a flip and begin its boost back burn, because we're landing on landing zone 1 today. So the booster does its boost back burn, second stage continues on, and then we have entry burn of the booster to slow it down and use that plume from the engines as a sort of heat shield to protect from the atmosphere. Then we'll have the landing burn and landing, followed by touchdown and second engine cutoff. Okay, SpaceX is live now, so we're going to switch over to them. I'm going to put you guys on this picture I have here. And we're going to pull up the SpaceX live stream. Okay, we have SpaceX up. And they
who
started
flew
early
2
today.
supply and assembly missions to the International Space Station. He is now Northrop Grumman's program manager for human exploration and operations. Dan, it's been a while, but it's great to have you with us today.
Rob, it's great to hear your voice and to be working with you again. Thanks for the call.
Our pleasure, Dan. From your experience on board the station a few years ago, what's involved in unloading a cache of cargo that a resupply vehicle brings to the complex in what amounts to its own complex operation?
Down. So we are T-minus 11 minutes.
Operation, and from a crew member's point of
See,
view,
we'll have engine chill coming up right away.
Or nowadays, it's like watching the Amazon truck show up and unload a bunch of stuff. You know, we're bringing 8,000 pounds.
And then
over
at T-minus 1 minute, we'll have startup of Falcon 9. This is where they switch to all the internal flight computers and internal batteries.
And stuff that the space station.
It's probably better if they're muted. But so we'll have startup at around T-minus 2 or 3 seconds. The first stage will light, and at T0 we'll have liftoff. So this Cygnus today is going to be docking to the Earth-facing side of the Unity module on the International Space Station. This module was launched by Endeavour on STS-88. So, yeah. So the Cygnus spacecraft weighs around 8 or 9 tons. And there is about 4 tons of science experiments and science gear and all that stuff on top of the inside the Cygnus today. So yeah. I just muted this stream because we don't need to listen to this unless you guys want to listen to this. Do we want to listen to this? I'll unmute it if you guys want. Well, now we have a view of the vehicle, so I might unmute.
A mobile clean room to support late load operations, which happen while the rocket is horizontal and on the pad deck. Late load refers to loading cargo in the final hours before launch and after the spacecraft has already been encapsulated inside the fairing. The fairing modifications includes a new roughly 5-foot by 4-foot fairing door that opens directly into the mobile clean room. At T-minus 24 hours, late load ops began. Techs removed the door and opened Cygnus's forward hatch to load time-sensitive cargo right on the pad. And then at T-minus 7 hours, Falcon 9 went vertical. Now with T-minus 8 minutes to go, all is looking good for an on-time liftoff today. Again, the payload and vehicle are healthy. The range is ready to support.
We're coming up on engine chill and strong back retract.
Amazing over there in Florida. For now, let's head back to Rob for a closer look at the science on today's mission. Rob?
Jesse, thanks. We're at T-minus 7 minutes, 30 seconds and counting to the launch of the Falcon 9 rocket and the Northrop Grumman Cygnus cargo craft, which, as we said, is delivering about 4 tons of science and supplies to the space station. You know, science for every crew that lives and works on board the station is the main objective of activities up on orbit. Today's delivery is designed to improve robotic surgeries on Earth, 3D printing techniques, and the growth of cartilage and microgravity. So let's take a quick look at the science aboard Cygnus.
Another 3D printer, that's cool. Lots of science on this mission. We have passed engine chill.
It's T-minus 6 minutes and 5 seconds, and the SpaceX team is
Back at
working no
T-minus
significant
6
issues.
minutes and
Weather
counting.
is go, range remains go for launch, and at this point, RP-1 fuel is completely loaded on the second stage and nearly complete on first stage. Liquid oxygen loading is underway on both stages and will
No
complete at
significant
T-minus
issues
2 minutes
confirmed
to
by
launch.
SpaceX.
We're also loading helium gas into both stages. Falcon 9 uses helium as a pressurant to backfill the propellant tanks as liquid oxygen and RP-1 are consumed by the Merlin engines during
That is
ascent.
pretty
Helium load began before the broadcast
Pretty
went
good,
live and will continue to top off
good to
until a
hear.
minute and a half before launch.
Jesse, to make sure engine startup goes well, SpaceX performed what is called engine chill, where a small amount of the super chilled liquid oxygen flowed into the Merlin engine's turbo pumps. This was done to avoid a thermal shock to the propulsion system when the full flow of super chilled liquid oxygen is introduced into the Falcon 9 plumbing. Cygnus is also undergoing
we're coming
final
up on
vehicle health
strong
checks
back
at this
retract,
moment as it prepares to
which
go on internal
the
battery power. All
that
of
sort
that
of
being
vertical
monitored by Northrop
beam
Grumman flight
behind the Falcon
controllers
9
in Dulles,
will
Virginia.
retract a few degrees
Now the next event coming up will be
before
the
launch
transporter
to just
erector
give clearance
retracting
for
away
the
from
vehicle lifting
now,
off
the
and
transporter
everything.
erector, or the TE, is that large structural structure
Um,
of the Falcon 9, which you can see there on your screen.
and then
There
as
are
soon as
clamp arms
liftoff
that are around the
occurs,
stage just below the fairing. Those will open up first, and once they're
that transporter erector will swing back about 45 degrees just to get out of the way of the rocket as it makes its way off the pad. You can see the clamps on the second stage releasing now.
I mentioned just below the fairing there are opening up.
They're opening up there.
Again, in these last few minutes, Falcon 9 is performing final health checks on its
Gonna turn SpaceX back up.
avionics and propulsion systems in preparation for flight.
There's some sort of purging from the second stage, venting of some kind.
And it looks like the clamp arms are now fully open, and it's very slow
And
in
now you
flight,
can
but
see
you can see
the
the
transporter
TE
erector is
slowly moving
slowly
away
moving
from
its way
the
back.
vehicle.
A few degrees. It's that big gray structure there, with a little bit of yellow on the top.
And that should conclude the TE retraction. Now we may hear some callouts that engines are also sufficiently chilled as we get a little closer to liftoff.
We're coming up on the
We are T-minus 3 minutes.
T-minus 3 minute
and
mark
15
until
seconds.
launch. Checkouts of the second stage thrust vector control actuators will soon begin. This is referred to as an
cursor out
engine
of the way.
gimbal or wiggle test, when SpaceX moves the nozzles ever so slightly to make sure that the guidance hardware is acceptable for
Checkouts
flight.
of second stage
SpaceX does the
TVC.
same checkouts on the first stage engines. That happens just a few seconds before engine ignition.
Huh.
By the way, at the
Stage
time
one,
of launch,
launch
the International Space Station will be flying some 260 statute miles over the South Pacific, southeast of New Zealand.
The next milestone coming up will be propellant loading completion on the vehicle. At T-minus 3 minutes, we wrapped up liquid oxygen
coming up on
loading on the
startup
first
here
stage
at T-minus
vehicle,
1
and
minute.
coming up next will be liquid oxygen loading completion on the second stage. Once
have that
that
first, I
happens,
suppose.
Falcon 9 will be fully loaded with 1 million pounds of kerosene fuel and liquid oxygen. Cygnus is also performing its final health checks to make sure that all of its primary systems are ready for its rendezvous with the space station. Just waiting for the second stage liquid oxygen loading
2 minutes to
call-out.
launch.
Stage 2, lock flow complete.
And there it is. That concludes propellant loading on Falcon 9. Now that this is complete, we will begin to vent
see
out,
that
and you can see it
transporter
there
erector
on your screen.
is
The
venting.
liquid oxygen line
Those are
on the transporter erector.
So they're just purging out all the fuels out of that transporter erector, because if there was still fuels inside of there when the rocket launched, there's chance of an explosion, which would not be very good.
Ground gas closeout.
Ground gas closeouts, yeah. 10 seconds until startup.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
This Falcon 9 is in startup.
There's the call. Falcon 9 in startup. Cygnus now transitioning to internal power. The Falcon 9 computers
T-minus
are in
50
final
seconds.
pre-launch checks. That instructs the rocket through the last seconds before liftoff.
Falcon Cygnus,
Both
NG-20,
stages now
go for
being
launch.
pressurized for launch. The range remains go for launch. A pristine day for a launch from the Space Coast. T-minus 40 seconds and counting.
We are go for launch.
30 seconds.
Twenty seconds.
15 seconds.
10,
T-minus 10,
9,
9, 8,
7,
7,
6, there's the water, 5,
5,
4,
4,
3,
3,
2,
2,
1,
1,
ignition,
ignition,
and
full power,
liftoff.
and liftoff. Go
Goes Falcon
Cygnus,
9
go
and
Falcon.
Cygnus to the International Space Station.
Falcon 9 and Cygnus begin their flight, taking aim on the International Space Station. Pitch and roll program
We are
in.
20
Falcon 9
seconds into
parking out
flight.
to the northeast.
MOD tier and pressure number.
At
We're
T
approaching
plus
max
40
Q.
seconds, Falcon 9 has successfully lifted off from Space Launch Complex
Power and
40.
telemetry
Which is
nominal.
the peak aerodynamic
This
stress
is our
on the
10th
vehicle.
mission of the year and second to the International Space Station. And we've throttled down our engines in preparation for max Q, which is coming up here in a few seconds. This is the largest structural
Vehicle
load.
supersonic.
This is the largest structural load that the vehicle will see on ascent.
Max Q.
Max Q.
Yeah, I
Great
had
news,
some
we've
weird
passed through
freezing. I don't know if
max
that was just
Q
on
and
my
are
end or
throttling
if it was
those
for you
engines
guys too,
back
but
up.
seem to have fixed it.
Next up will be 5 events in rapid succession. That will be main engine cutoff, stage separation, second engine start, or SES-1, the boost back burn startup on the first stage, and fairing separation. Main engine cutoff, or what we call MECO, is where all 9 M1D engines on the Falcon 9 first stage will shut down. It's all
Oh,
those engines
look
that
at
you
that
see there
view.
on your screen. And
See
this
that
will be
plume
followed
expanding
by stage
as the
separation, or
atmospheric
the
pressure
separation
lowers?
of the first and second stages.
Every
A few seconds later,
as
the
you get
Merlin
higher
vacuum
into the
engine
atmosphere.
on the second stage will ignite to boost Cygnus to
So we're
low
coming
Earth
up
orbit,
rapidly
which is
on
also
main
known
engine
as
cutoff.
SES-1.
Main engine
Then
cutoff,
Falcon
and
9's
then
first
we'll
stage
have
will ignite
separation.
again to orient itself
Stage
to
1
head
flip,
back to land with the boost back burn.
second stage
Shortly
ignition,
thereafter, the fairing
and stage
halves
1 boost
will
back burn
separate
startup.
and expose the spacecraft to the vacuum of
So it's going to be a
space.
pretty busy
Again,
time.
those
So
5
here
events
we go.
coming up in a few seconds. MECO, stage separation, SES-1, the boost back burn starting up, as well as fairing separation.
Stubby nozzle, no. Main engine cutoff.
MECO. Stage separation confirmed.
And stage 1 flip.
Stage 1 boost back startup.
And there we've had
And
MECO,
stage 1 boost
separation,
back burn
the
startup.
back engine on the second stage ignited, as well as the boost back burn starting up on the first stage vehicle. And some
Yeah, that
awesome
that
views
nozzle is
there
really
on your
short.
screen. On your
I don't
left-hand
like the way
side
it
is a view
looks,
of
but it's
from
really
the first
short.
stage. On your
Just to
right-hand
save
side, a
mass,
view
they
from
don't
the
need the
second
extra
stage.
bit of nozzle. They don't need that performance on this mission. You can see Cygnus in the fairings. And fairing separation.
And excellent news. We were able to see and hear the call out for confirmation of fairing separation, you can
Stage
actually
one is still
see
boosting
one of
back
the fairing
to the
halves falling back to
landing
Earth on
zone.
your right-hand screen.
Stage 1 boost back shutdown.
We have boost back burn shutdown.
And we heard that call out, and you can see on your left-hand screen
And
that the
stage one is
engines on the first stage vehicle have
reorienting
shut
itself.
down, and that
Can't talk.
concludes the boost back burn for the first stage
And the
vehicle.
grid fins are now
You
deploying,
can also see that the grid fins are now
while stage 2
deploying
continues
on
on
the first
into
stage.
space.
Both vehicles are following nominal trajectory.
And great call outs that both vehicles are on nominal trajectories.
Nominal trajectories.
Some awesome views on your screen. Again, on your left-hand side is a view from the first stage. On your right-hand side is a view from the second stage looking at our MVAC engine. You're watching a live webcast for NG-20, Northrop Grumman's 20th resupply mission to the orbiting laboratory. This is SpaceX's 10th
The
mission
first
for
stage is
2024
tilting itself,
and the
getting in
second flight to the
position
International
for
Space
the
Station just this year. You might be interested to know, in order to
stage
get
one
to
entry
space,
burn.
the rocket has to do more than just go up. It also has to go sideways and really, really fast.
10th mission of
At liftoff, gravity is
2024.
pulling straight down on the vehicle.
And we're not
as
even
we
done with
ascend,
January
we tilt
yet.
the engines, and the technical term for that is called gimbaling, and that turns the rocket horizontally. And we are still going up, but we are now also heading horizontally away from the launch pad, and that's what we call a gravity turn. An object typically needs to go 7.5 kilometers per second or 17,500 miles per hour horizontally in order to avoid being pulled back down to Earth and get into orbit. And that is exactly what this vehicle just performed. And on your left-hand side, again, is the first stage making its way back down to Earth. Today, we do have a land landing, so we do require 3 burns in order for it to make its way back to its landing zone. We've already completed the boost back burn for the vehicle
So
as
we're
it
coming up on
oriented
the entry
itself
burn.
heading back towards land. Next up will be the entry burn, and that's where 3 of the Merlin engines will reignite. This helps to slow the vehicle down as it re-enters the upper parts of the Earth's atmosphere. And then will be followed by the last burn, which is the landing burn. That's a single engine burn that begins, that brings the
you
vehicle
can see the
speed
booster
down
on the left.
rapidly in order to touch down back
It's like,
on
oh, we're
Earth.
gonna get a view
And
boost
really cool
entry burn.
view of that first stage vehicle.
We don't
from
often
our
see that.
ground tracking camera. That looks amazing. And that entry burn is coming up here in just about 30 seconds or so.
You can see the Space Coast.
Views look amazing today. Again, you can see on your left-hand screen the view of Earth in the background of the first stage as it's coming back down to Earth to land on our landing zone. Right-hand screen, again, is of the second stage, looking aft at our MVAC engine.
Should have entry burn starting up in any second now. Entry burn.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
Entry burn startup. There we go.
We just heard that call out, and you can see on your left-hand screen
us
that
the
the
view, show
engines
us the
on
view.
the first stage vehicle have reignited.
Yes.
Just about a
Yes.
17
Oh, look at
second
that.
burn.
Down selected to one engine
Stage 1
and
entry
shut
burn
off.
shutdown.
Cut
And
off,
Stage
I
1
should say.
FTS has saved.
Okay, this is going to be an awesome view of
tracking
landing,
view of our
guys.
first stage vehicle. As you can see that the entry burn has concluded. And the first stage vehicle continues to make
FTS
its
is
way
saved.
back
You can
down
see
to
they
Earth.
are
Both
tilting their
vehicles
way
continuing
sort
on
of
a nominal
back to
trajectory.
the landing zone.
And this is an
This is going to be good. This is
incredible
probably the best
view
view I've ever
that
seen
we are
of
getting
landing.
of the first stage vehicle heading back to land. Right now
You can
it's
see that
using its 4
vapor
grid
coming off
fins
of the
to
engines.
guide
Stage 1 transonic.
Vapor cone
the vehicle during its
coming
descent.
up on landing burn. Holy crap.
This
This is oh my gosh.
amazing. You can see those 4
See the
grid
grid
fins
fins tilting.
deployed.
We are coming up on ignition.
What a
And
view
we
that
have
we have.
engine
burn.
start.
And you can see
Descending
that the
back
landing
down
burn
to the
has
landing
begun
zone.
for the vehicle. Let's watch as Falcon 9 touches back down on land.
Oh my gosh. That is a crazy view. The 10th landing of this booster.
Stage 2 FDS has saved.
Landing
Stage one
legs
landing leg
deploy. And touchdown.
Stage 1 landing confirmed.
Yet another successful
What
touchdown.
a sight to see.
The 280th successful landing of a Falcon 9
booster
booster.
just completed
Sorry,
its
280th
10th flight
recovery
and the
attempt of a Falcon 9 booster, I believe.
Successful landing of an orbital class
Second
rocket,
stage is still
including both
boosting its
Falcon
way.
9 and Falcon Heavy boosters. That was such an
shutdown.
such
And
an
we have
incredible
second
view to
engine
watch.
cutoff.
Now next up is SECO for the second stage. That's where we will shut down this MVAC engine.
There we go. We've made it to orbit and we're on our way to the space station.
Nominal orbit insertion.
And great news, we heard that call out for SECO 1 as well as confirmation of good orbit. At T plus 9 minutes and 15 seconds into the mission, the second stage has one
I'm not
last
sure when
major
the Cygnus
task,
separation
commanding
is. I'll have
separation of
to
the Cygnus
quickly
spacecraft
look on
just a
the
few minutes from
timeline.
now. For those of you just tuning in, you're watching a
We are
live
9
webcast
minutes,
for NG-20,
27
Northrop Grumman's
seconds
20th
into the
resupply
launch.
mission
31
to the
seconds now.
International Space
I'm gonna
Station.
go on to SpaceX.
This is SpaceX's 10th mission for 2024 and second flight to the International Space Station this year. And for those of you
time
following
for
along, you'll
when
know that
that-
Cygnus will be joining two
thing
SpaceX
separates.
Dragon spacecraft that are already docked at station as part of the Crew 7 and Axiom 3 missions.
Okay, we
Crew
have
7 docked with the space station in August of last year, and Axiom 3
NG-20
arrived
deploys
earlier
at
this month
14
on January
minutes and 40
20th.
seconds, so we might as well stay on stream.
We are getting some
So
incredible
stick
views.
around for
Again, what
another
you're
four
seeing on
and
your
a half
screen
minutes, you guys.
is a view from the
wanna see
second stage
deployment
looking
of
aft
this
at our MVAC engine.
Spacecraft.
And you can see today that we are flying a shorter nozzle. And there you can see that shorter nozzle there on your screen.
So that was a good
Northrop
launch.
Grumman and
One of the
SpaceX
best
have a
landing views
long
I've ever
history
seen.
of supporting the International Space Station with cargo missions like today's. SpaceX's first commercial resupply
turn
services
SpaceX
or
down a
CRS
tad.
mission, CRS-1, launched in 2012 and made history by restoring America's capability to deliver and return cargo to the
but yeah,
station.
Good
The Cygnus
success.
spacecraft has been visiting the International Space Station since 2013, and the first Cygnus CRS mission,
Good successful
Orb-1,
launch.
launched in 2014.
Had some
Cygnus has
amazing
delivered
views.
more than 138,000 pounds of equipment, science experiments, and supplies to sustain the International Space Station's astronauts under NASA's Commercial Resupply Services contract. The most recent cargo resupply mission was SpaceX's CRS-29, and that was at the end of 2023, delivering more than 6,500 pounds of scientific research, crew supplies, and hardware to the orbiting laboratory. And today, Dragon is the only spacecraft currently flying that is
So
capable
yeah,
of
just
returning
stick
significant
around for a
amounts
couple
of
more minutes, you
cargo
guys,
back
and
down to
we'll
Earth.
watch deployment.
The CRS partnership has helped build a strong American commercial space industry that will soon take us to destinations
Also,
beyond
if
low
you're
Earth
watching
orbit.
and you haven't
Now, in fact,
subscribed or liked the
these
stream,
missions provide
make sure to do
critical
that,
learnings
please.
that will help us develop a human presence on the moon and Mars, which will require a steady supply of cargo missions to grow and thrive. Again, if you're just now tuning in, we've had an on-time liftoff from Cape
And
Canaveral
about 2
at
minutes away from
12:07
Cygnus separation.
p.m. Eastern Time. We had a good stage separation. Falcon 9's first stage returned back to land and touched down for landing. Now, right now, what you're seeing on your screen is a view from the second stage vehicle looking after our MVAC engine, but the Cygnus spacecraft is still attached. And we are just waiting for Cygnus separation from the second stage in just about a couple minutes from now.
Believe it is
Again, getting
14
some
minutes
awesome views
and
here.
14 seconds, I think.
And you can see that the vehicle is coasting. On
I'm
your
sorry,
bottom
14
right-hand
minutes and
corner of
40
your screen, you can
seconds.
see the speed as well as the altitude of the vehicle
Yeah.
with the payload attached. As a reminder, this is the first SpaceX launch of Cygnus this year. Cygnus refers to the constellation that is visible in the northern night sky. It's the company's tradition to name each Cygnus spacecraft in honor of an individual who has made substantial contributions to human spaceflight. Northrop Grumman named the
About
NG-20
1 minute away
spacecraft
from
in remembrance and celebration of the life
spacecraft
of NASA
separation.
astronaut Dr. Patricia Patty Hilliard Robertson. Following separation, Cygnus will have a nearly 40-hour transit to the space station, where the station's Canadarm2 will grapple Cygnus, and the spacecraft will attach to the Unity module's Earth-facing port for cargo unloading
40
by the
hours
Expedition
to the
70 crew.
station. Canadarm2. Yeah, that's what I said
If
earlier.
you're just now joining us, you are watching the NG-20 mission.
Okay, we are coming up on spacecraft deployment. And shortly thereafter, we should have solar array deployed, but I'm not sure if we'll get the use of that.
Separation in just about under 30 seconds from now.
About 20 seconds away from separation. Those blue things in the holding that white cable on look like zip ties. I'm sure there are zip ties. Space zip ties,
that you
though.
see there on your screen is looking forward at the payload. Separation coming up here.
And we should have deployment. There we go. Separation of Cygnus.
And an incredible view.
You can see that grapple fixture. You can see the grapple fixture for Canadarm2. And a small little thruster at the very back.
Spacecraft separation. The Cygnus spacecraft is now on its way to the International Space Station, expected to arrive in just under 40 hours at 3:20 a.m. Central Time. And that's going to wrap it up for me here in Hawthorne. Be sure to check out spacex.com/launches for a schedule of our upcoming missions. In the meantime, Rob, what's next for Cygnus?
Jesse, thanks very much. Great ride into orbit for Cygnus, and I must tell you that the
Second
flight
stage is going to go
controllers here in
deorbit.
the International Space Station Flight Control Room were simply mesmerized by
Yeah,
the
thank
great
you
video
guys
of the first
for
stage
watching.
landing, following its job to deliver Cygnus on its way to orbit. Joining me now on the phone here in Mission Control in Houston is Jeff Arend, the manager for the Systems and Integration Office for the International Space Station program.
See, the second
Jeff,
stage is sort of
welcome in with us today.
pitching its way
Yeah,
around.
Rob, thanks for having me. Yeah, it's always good to talk with you.
Jeff, a pretty significant day. How significant for the program was today's
I'm probably
launch
gonna end
as
the stream
SpaceX
here.
and Northrop Grumman collaborated to send Cygnus on its way to the station?
Yeah, I guess I'd
So,
start by,
yeah,
by
I
kinda
will see you
echoing what
guys
just
all.
said, that both of our commercial.
I'll see you guys all on the next stream, whenever that may be. Yeah, see you guys. Thanks for watching.